It's Ashley from Sweet Dreams Bake Shop, and welcome back to my channel where I make a lot of cake and cookie decorating tutorials, as well as give a lot of baking business tips. And if you are like me and are doing your daughter's Valentine's Day cookies literally last minute, then definitely watch this tutorial. So before we actually start this tutorial, I do want to start off with the fact that I am well aware these hearts are very imperfect. The baking on these is not very nice. Luckily, I think 7-year-olds will forgive me. The reason that this happened is because although I used my no-spread sugar cookie recipe, I did leave out the dough for an extended period of time because I was baking a lot of cookies at once and these came last. So I will say if you are using my recipe, you don't necessarily have to refrigerate before you bake them, but if you've left it out for a while and you're noticing the dough is quite soft, you will get weird oblong shapes if you don't refrigerate. For pipe and flood consistency, which is what I'm using here, you can check out this tutorial in the right-hand corner if you want a really detailed explanation. However, I will say that since then, I'm actually opted for a little bit of a thicker pipe and flood consistency. The reason is because I can really avoid any spillage. I hate it when it overflows, and then you end up wasting so much time just on the base ice of your cookies. You'll notice that as I pipe it, it's actually keeping it shaped for a relatively long time, but once you get it right, you'll find a consistency where it might keep its shape for a little while, but it eventually evens out without any knocking or shaking of the cookie needed. I am not using a tipless piping bag today, though that is my number one choice. I ran out of tipless piping bags, so my other choice was I could either use a number 2 tip or I could just cut off the tip of a regular piping bag. Now you might be wondering, well, why wouldn't you just do this all the time? And it's fine for pipe and flood consistency, but once you actually start doing detailed work, you are going to need a more rounded tip or a tipless piping bag. A regular piping bag will kind of stay flat, so it won't give you that nice rounded texture that you're going to need. I'm also doing a few cars. I don't have a whole lot of them. I wish I had baked more of these, but honestly, I wasn't really thinking of this project in particular for these cookies. It's kind of what I had available, so I pulled them out. I thought that they would be great for my daughter's class. I also want to make mention that when I'm in a rush, I want to stick to as minimal amount of colorant as possible because the less I have to color, the less time it's going to take. And I did complete these within an hour, so I tried to make use of what I had. Pink and red were the only stipulations that my daughter had, so I made sure that I made those, and luckily I had some of this black left over. Base icing the cookies was really simple. To get this pale pink color, by the way, what I do instead of adding in just regular food gel, because I tend to not be able to control how much comes out of that nozzle and then I don't want to grab toothpicks, what I actually do is I use just a little bit of airbrush color. Because even if for some reason you squeeze the bottle too hard, chances are you're only going to get a few extra drops out of it, and that really won't affect the icing color too much. To get this red color can be a little bit tricky when you're first doing it. Your inclination might be to add a lot of food colorant in there because you want a nice deep red color. With royal icing, it tends to darken quite a bit. I like Chef Master Red. It's one of the best. It's most pigmented, and I find it has the least amount of bitter taste. Now these were looking a little boring to me and I always need some sort of shine on there. I could have gone silver, but I'm in my gold era. Haven't left this era for like 3 years, so I'm gonna add on some gold. What I also love is because I am making these for children, they're not going to pick off those golden balls like every single adult that I watch eat these cookies do. Now I don't eat my cookies very often at all. I find after I work on them for so long, they start to look inedible to me, but one day I finally just ate a few of the sprinkles because I was wondering what was so unpleasant about them. And I have had some sprinkles that are incredibly hard, but I must say this brand really just dissolves in your mouth and it just has a nice sugary snap to it. So I really wish that people would just give them a try before spitting them out. But in all fairness, if you don't like a giant sprinkle, you don't like a giant sprinkle. It's kind of like how I cannot consume fondant for the life of me. For this rose pattern here, I love this one because it works really, really well with a little bit of a thicker pipe and flood consistency. I don't have to change anything about it, but it also doesn't mesh all together. For this piping, you are going to need a thickened royal icing. So I took my red icing, I added a couple tablespoons of meringue powder to it, and I also added some icing sugar as well. If you're intimidated by swags, I highly recommend that you do try it on something like a sugar cookie first before trying it on a cake. You're going to gain that control that you need. The trick to swags is really holding that piping bag up high and then dipping down, letting that just drop for you. And trust me, it's a lot easier to learn on something flat before you go to a cake, which is a little bit more 3D and to the side. It was at this point where I was starting to feel uninspired by my design. You know how sometimes you have kind of a vision, but it's not solid enough, and you just think it'll come together once you start? That really wasn't happening for me throughout all of this until I started adding in the gold details later on. Yes, I added on some gold pearls, but I also add on some more gold detailed accents. Spoiler alert. And despite the fact that these are for second graders, my daughter is obsessed with handwriting lately. She just wants to learn script, which I think is so funny because I remember learning handwriting around this age, but we don't actually teach that anymore in schools, but she really, really wants to learn. So I thought I would add on some of these scripty love words. You can make these cars a lot more detailed. You can add some airbrushing, but I'm just going to add some simple piping on here because, you can't get this done in under an hour if you start doing that. So I'm just adding on some details. If you find it difficult to do those swooping lines, again, it is the same principle as doing swags. You really just want to make sure that you're holding that piping bag up nice and high and letting the lines drop down. No surprise here, it is gold detail time. So if ever you're like, man, this project is looking really flat and really boring, but I don't have time to mix up another color, I say pull out the luster dust, add in a little bit of vodka. If you do not want to use alcohol whatsoever, then you can go ahead and add in a little bit of lemon extract. The reason we use lemon extract is because it's colorless and it is also flavorless once it dries. And I must say that it looked so much better to me once I added the edible glitter on there and once I added that gold painted detailing. Of course, the car needs it. I decided the windows looked a little bit boring, so I added it directly onto the cookie, which you can also do. A lot of people ask me, are they actually consuming alcohol when you mix the luster dust with it? And the truth is, it kind of just evaporates. But if you are worried, like I said, just use lemon extract. These cookies were done in an hour. I hope my daughter's class really enjoys them. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you can be part of the Sweetie fam. Right now, I'm uploading weekly, so make sure you hit that notification bell so you know when I upload. Also, be sure to comment, request, or ask a question. I love hearing from you guys. And if you've been wondering, where have you and Alia been for the Bake Down podcast? We are still here. We are so sorry. I have been dealing with some life stuff, but there will be videos very soon. Bye!